Kale with Company on the polls.
Hi, it's Alexis Marie Chute.
All right, Alexis, we're coming back in a minute and 7 seconds, so stay on the line, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This year was our 45th year in business.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is, but you know, it's really great when you like what you do.
Why do you like
So this is Alexis Marie Chute. I'm going to be on 107.7 The Pulse in New Hampshire, and he's got me on hold. So we're going to be going live in just a second. Super excited about it.
We need to stay educated about the
Get
latest
zen.
technology and electrical codes to keep our customers safe.
And
They must trust
go
you.
Oilers!
Becky, that's
Play off hockey.
I like most about what I do.
R&T Electric. We are there for you when you need us.
For all your electrical needs, call us at 224-4782 or visit us online at rtelec.com.
WMUR News 9 on your FM radio. Weekdays 5 to 6 a.m. and from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Live and local. 107.7 The Pulse.
Live with you till 5. Elizabeth Coleman Rose here with J-Dog at the helm. I am broadcasting from the Manchester studio. Glad to see lots of people walking by and waving. On the line now, I have with me, I'm glad she was able to join me. I have an artist, writer, filmmaker, photographer, Alexis Marie Chute, and she has just written a memoir called Expecting Sunshine, A Journey of Grief and Healing and Pregnancy After Loss. So welcome to Kale & Company, Alexis.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure, and I was so glad that I received a notice from your publicity to have you on the show today, because Mother's Day can be a really distressing day for a lot of women and dads. And I was glad that you were willing to share your own story as far as having children and losing a child and being able to find a way to help others through that distress. How is your memoir being received, and how did you decide that you would write something so personal?
I think that the decision to write something so personal, in the writing stage, it wasn't like I was sharing it. So the scary part is now being, vulnerable with so many people and putting this story out into the world. But I really did feel that from my own experience, after losing a child, I felt so alone, and I didn't know other people were in the same boat as me. And so I really wanted to, with this book, give an outlet, an opportunity to share stories and community so that people know that, one, they're not alone, two, they will survive this grief. Although it's incredibly debilitating at the time, people can get through, and you can be happy again. I think a lot of people give up on that dream when their baby dies. It's so heartbreaking. But I have found that I can experience joy in life after loss.
And I can tell you, when I suggested this segment to some of the people here at the Pulse, I got some looks, like, are you sure you want to go into that, that kind of topic around Mother's Day? And I thought that's the perfect day, because I bet everyone out there knows a woman, and I don't want to exclude dads either, that knows a woman who has lost a child of any age, either at birth or as an infant or even as an adult. And Mother's Day is, something they look with dread.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dread. So what, can you give maybe just like a thumbnail of your own background and of what your own loss was, and how you can, what tips you can give other mothers who might be grieving, particularly on this coming Sunday?
Absolutely. So I had one healthy child, and my husband and I were blissfully naive, and we thought, let's do this again. And we did. We got pregnant again, and everything was going well. And then halfway through that pregnancy, we got notification from the doctor saying there's something wrong with your baby's heart. And we basically spent the month and a half after that news trekking to the hospital every day, trying to see what we could do to save our child. And in the end, he had a large tumor around his heart, and there was nothing we could do. And my son was born. He lived just a few minutes. We named him Zachary. He never cried. He never opened his eyes. And in those moments, I knew that my life would never be the same again after that time. And moving forward was an incredibly difficult journey. And things like hearing other kids with the name Zachary, or having Mother's Day come up, or even the anniversary of his birth and his passing, those dates really triggered strong emotional reactions in me. Yeah. And so my advice after surviving, this will be my 6th Mother's Day after losing Zach. My advice is, 1, to always be graceful and kind with yourself. I think sometimes moms, we have these expectations on ourselves that, you know, we should have all the answers, we should have things together, especially if we have living children. The feeling like, you know, we're always taking care of other people. But how often do we turn inwards and think, I need to take care of myself? And so being graceful with yourself and not hard on yourself for however you may be feeling. And then also, it's okay to shut out the world, turn off social media that, you know, throws Mother's Day, you know, paraphernalia in our faces, like go shopping, go to this brunch, do this, do that. It's okay to shut those things off and just be insular and be with your family and just, like I said, take care of yourself. I think that was something that I didn't know at the beginning, you know, and it's hard to navigate all the different messages that our culture throws at us.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, I'm standing, you know, here speaking with you as someone who doesn't have any children, and my mom is still with me. So, you know, I tried to think of how I could empathize with someone in that situation, but I watched a little bit of the film that you made around your memoir, and, you know, I had to go find the Kleenex box.
Oh.
So I think a lot of people can try and show some kind of empathy, even if they may not have children. Or I was wondering, too, you know, I wanted to ask you about, you're always saying, you know, there might be silent moms out there, women that may have lost a child for any number of reasons, and you have no idea that they might be hurting. Mm-hmm. So if you think most people just, I wouldn't know what to say if I walked up to a woman and she had lost an infant, you know, and it was her first Mother's Day without her child.
Yeah.
You know, it's just telling someone, if, you know, I'm here if you need a good cry, or what would you say to a mom? Or should you, like, you know, I want to keep, if you have a child and that mom has just lost a child, how do you navigate that awkward sense of, I have a child and yours is no longer, you've lost yours? I mean, what do you do with those kind of weird situations?
Well, and I think that's the unfortunate state that our culture has set us up for, that we don't know how to talk about this kind of loss. You know, if somebody older dies, you say, oh, at least they lived a long life and we can cling to those memories, right? When a baby dies, you don't have that. And so one thing I really strongly believe is that as a culture, we need to break the stigma around these kind of losses. And so how we do that is not letting it be awkward, saying what's on our hearts and communicating in authentic and real ways. And I do think that some of that comes back to the bereaved moms. Because, you know, our family and friends don't know how to support us, I do think it is very important for the bereaved moms to say, hey, this is what I need today. I need to talk. Or, hey, I don't want to talk about it today. I would rather just go for a walk or go get a coffee and see a movie. And I really think that something that people forget is that everyone grieves differently. And so there's no one right answer. There's no formula that we can say, here's a script, right? Because everyone's so different. So that's where the communication comes in. And I do think that, changing the way our culture talks about grief is something that starts with kids. And I have been really open with my own children, my living kids, about our loss. And so I see such beautiful innocence and almost a childlike understanding of the natural cycles of life. And I think that's a really healthy place to start talking about it with our kids.
Well, it's like you say that because, my husband is a twin who was born prematurely, like a month and a half early, in the early 60s. And his twin died after a week.
Oh, my goodness.
And if you talk to my mother-in-law, you can still see there's that pain of loss there.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband didn't know he had lost a twin till he was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's like, well, who is, and she was talking to a census taker, and she said that she had 4 children. And he's like, well, what do you mean? You only have 3 children.
Yeah.
And that's how he found out. But that baby is still very much a part of their family.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they talk about him. He still has a presence there, even though he died at 1 week old.
And that's exactly what I mean. I think that is a beautiful response to death, because I think we fear death and we push it into the shadows, and that's where this awkwardness comes from, because it becomes this secret thing that we are afraid of. But when we can bring it into the light, when we can bring it into our families and celebrate the person who died in a beautiful, commemorative way, that can be something that is incredibly healing for all parts of the family.
If you've just joined me, I'm talking to Alexis Marie Chute. She is the author of the memoir Expecting Sunshine, A Journey of Grief, Healing, and Pregnancy After Loss. And I had the little bit of research I was able to do, Alexis. I understand you wanted to write this memoir and the subsequent film after you found out you were expecting again, so that you wouldn't be carrying this grief over to your next child.
Absolutely. And I call the year after my son died my year of distraction, because in that year I did everything but focus on my grief. And like you say, you're totally right. It wasn't until I got pregnant again that I manned up, so to speak, to the enormous pain and weight of my loss and how I had to deal with it in order to move on and be a healthy, whole human being.
Well, it sounds like I just applaud you for being able to tell this story, because I know you get asked these questions a lot, and you're asked to recall a very painful, episode in your life, but you've been able to turn it into such good for other people. How did you decide to make a film? Is that from your background as a photographer?
Yeah, so I know that people can pick up a book and read and get immersed in that way, but there are a lot of people out there who are like me, who are very visual people. And so I wanted to put faces to the stories, and I wanted to show visually what that experience was like. So in the film, myself and my crew, we interview, I believe it's over 25 other bereaved moms and dads. We interview nurses, doctors, grief specialists, advocates, to really unearth what this experience of loss is like. And there's, footage of me painting, and it actually follows the whole, my whole second pregnancy after loss experience to show what it is like to put yourself into the shoes, into that lifestyle. And I'm really hoping that people will be able to relate and get a lot out of that.
Well, I can tell it's the little bit that I saw of it. It was very moving, but it wasn't. I wanted to keep watching it. You kept it at a very manageable level of emotion.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I was able to watch it without being so overwhelmed that I just couldn't watch it anymore.
Well, because I do think the experience of pregnancy after loss, even the experience of losing a child, it is sorrowful and it is so hard, but at the same time there is hope and there is joy, and that's really the message that I want people to get out of the book and the documentary. So I'm glad that you said that there is hope, that there is more to the sad story. I think that every bereaved parent wants there to be a next chapter and wants there to be joy in that chapter of life.
Because I imagine the worst, I would think the most difficult thing you could say to a mom is, oh, well, you can have another one, don't worry.
Yes.
I mean, I would think you'd want to just, I mean, they mean well, but you'd want to smack them because it totally denies the child that you had.
Exactly. And it shrinks the importance.
To that?
You know, I think that the only response that I've ever come up with that is any good is just smiling and nodding and trying not to take those words to heart. Because I think, like you say, people really do mean the best. And sometimes it's just about like biting down on something and you know, holding your tongue, because there are really no great words to say. And so, like, I remember when I got pregnant again after losing Zachary, people looked at me with such relief. Family and friends were like, oh, she's moving on.
Yeah.
But you never move on and leave the people you love behind. Whether that's a child or even a parent or a friend, you never leave those people. You carry them forward and they become a part of the next chapter, but in a different way. So, yeah, my advice for people who say less than helpful things is to be understanding of where they're coming from, too.
And as you mentioned, I know that you were saying that the film that you made, it can be for anybody who's lost someone they love. The idea is how to cope with losing someone that you love.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a child or, you know, a baby or a child, even a grown child.
Yeah, there's a class I teach called Healing Art for Mourning Parents, and it was amazing. So we had parents in that group who had lost to miscarriage. There was also a parent who lost her adult child. And then there was even a woman who took the class who had lost a step-parent. So I really do think that there are lots of commonalities with grief and many ways that we can be supportive and care for each other.
Now, you are in Canada, so I know someone might be thinking, oh, where? I want to go to that class. So you're up there in Alberta, Canada.
Yes, Edmonton, Alberta.
Wow. And all I know from our producer is that there's going to be a Game 7 against Anaheim.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing my Oilers shirt right now, so...
This woman doesn't follow hockey, but she does.
Yeah, I do. I like arts and I like hockey, so there you go. You can combine all kinds of interests.
Canadian Pearl, you can't hate hockey if you're a Canadian. That's how it is.
There you go. We're born and raised on the ice rink.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm from the seacoast, so we didn't have a lot of ice. I don't know. But,
well, I'm not a fan of winter, so that's one thing that's weird about me being a Canadian. But what can you do, right?
Well, you are where you are, and it's that idea of bloom where you're planted. And, you know, getting back to, I guess you have to be kind of tough to live up there in Alberta, Canada. But one thing I noticed that kind of ties into what we've been talking about, your memoir, is your beautiful photograph about human resilience.
Yeah.
Oh, I wrote the name of it down. It's something portraits. I apologize.
Oh, it's the Quiet Rebuild portraits. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
What is the genesis of those? I mean, so much of your work seems to be around that idea of resilience and rebuilding and moving through, you know, great pain.
Yeah, so I found the beauty of the human spirit, the resiliency of the human spirit after loss, something that was really inspiring for me. And so I did a residency at an art gallery here in Edmonton called Harcourt House. And during that time, I started taking pictures of other people who have been through hard situations, people who've lost children like myself, but also people who have battled unimaginable physical illness, addiction, other kinds of losses, the ends of relationships. I feel like the beauty of humans is like we have this innate impulse in us to wake up every day, put our pants on one leg at a time, eat our breakfast, and keep going. The desire to keep going, I find that so inspiring. And that's really what the Quiet Rebuild portrait series is about. And it has grown. So I've photographed people from all around the world, and they find me usually on social media. And I'll put out a call on Twitter saying, hey, has anybody been through something hard and they want to share their experience of rebuilding their life? And then we collaborate, we come up with a conceptual scenario, photographic idea, and then we create it together. So it's really quite a powerful experience for both photographer and for the person in the pictures and those looking at them.
I tell you, I'm so glad you were able to spend some time with us today, because just talking to you, I can see that you're bringing, that idea of using creativity to express the resiliency and moving through grief. That's probably helpful for a lot of people to be able to create something out of loss versus not having any outlet about it, or even talking about it can get very tiresome. But to create something concrete and three-dimensional out of it must be very satisfying. And catharsis, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, it definitely has this cathartic release to it. And I think there's something really beautiful about switching to the creative side of our brain, because often we're dealing with people who are in tough situations have the questions like, why did this happen to me? What could I have done differently? And often our left logic side of the brain, we can't find the answers. Often there's mystery in life. And by switching over and doing creative writing or dance or art, it brings us into a different headspace where we can think abstractly and creative problem solve about what we've been through and ultimately find peace, which is a beautiful thing to have after loss.
It definitely is. I have been talking to, and it's Alexis Marie Chute, is that correct?
Yes.
Because I thought I'm going to go with Chute. She is an artist, a writer, a photographer, a mom, and she's also written a memoir titled Expecting Sunshine, A Journey of Grief and Healing and Pregnancy After Loss. And that is also, I think the film is complete. Is that correct?
We're almost done editing. We're so close. Stay tuned for that.
Okay. Well, you can get the memoir on I think, just about every site. If you go to AnneMarieChute.com, you can certainly get a copy of the memoir, and then we can wait, holding our breath for the film version.
Yes.
I want to just thank you for sharing your time with us today, Alexis Marie.
Thank you. It was so nice talking with you. I appreciate it. And happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. All right, and maybe we'll connect with you again when the film's done. Just let us know and we can talk about that again.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
And go Oilers!
Go Oilers! Woo!
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.